What's up, Star Trek fans? It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, and there's a lot of reasons why, but we're not really going to get too far into that. I'm not going to make you guys listen to that. We're going to talk about Star Trek to the best of my knowledge of what I want to talk about. One of the things I want to talk about is I've heard rumors from multiple different people, and I've also heard sort of suggested reasons as to certain things. And I've also heard about Patrick Stewart talking about a deleted scene or a final scene that they never shot for Picard, and he wants a movie. And so there's really a lot of stuff to talk about. I think there's a great clip from the podcast guys of them talking about that situation with the last scene in Picard season 3 that was supposed to be shot that wasn't shot. And it's very funny to me and hilarious at what happened. So I do want to bring that up at some point, but before that, just a few house cleaning things, a few, I guess announcements pre-talk. I'm sorry I have been gone for a long time. I'm working almost 3 jobs now, if you count YouTube, my regular job, and then a third side hustle. It's kind of crazy. I don't want to put too much on you guys and bore you with that too much, so just quickly I'll say that the bottom line is this. I started on YouTube 12 years ago. In 2013, my other channel took off, got successful. And then in 2017, I quit my job, and I actually got laid off, but then I never needed to go back to work again because for 5 years or so, YouTube was a full-time job for me, a very full-time job. So well, in fact, I was able to get into a house finally at almost, 37 years old, 36 years old, whatever it was. And so it was amazing. Had a crazy trip, and my other channel is still doing pretty good, but I've had quite the crash. And with a lot of bills piling up and craziness, I've just been in a very working 3 jobs, and so to bring on this channel on top of my other channel and on top of everything else, it's very crazy, blah blah blah. The bottom line is I work 3 jobs, and I'm just battling this depression that's crazy. And so I haven't been wanting to come on and do a lot of things, because when I come on, I'm just sort of I'm just staring into the camera. I think I'm dealing with, when celebrities do, they make a movie and they become well known, and then after that, they never really do anything else again, and they go to hell. Everything goes to hell, and they have that trouble converting back to, oh, I must be regular person now. And I think that I had trouble going from oh, I'm a loser pretty much, but I've got kids to take care of, but I'm kind of a loser, to all of a sudden, oh wow, millions of views, 5 years, full-time job, making crazy, it's just it's stuff. It's just wild. And then all of a sudden to just, whoa, now I got 3 jobs, and it's really hard to keep up with everything, and we're failing at life, and everything's going to hell. So I think that anyway, that's the bottom line. But I'm ready to go here in this video. I don't feel like that right now, so that's cool. But I want to take time really quickly just to say thank you to Terry Metalis. This guy delivered, man. Star Trek Picard Season 3 delivered, and it is still just the gift that keeps on giving. I still can't believe that we got essentially a 4th TNG sort of movie, but story. It was just really awesome, the whole thing. And thank you to Terry Metalis for coming through. He promised this to me, and then he did it. So thank you to him for sending me this album. It's just this music, this album, the choices, the selection, the new songs, the fusion of old stuff mixed, the new takes on stuff, the replicated versions of stuff. I mean, the throwbacks. The album is one of the best things ever. Just Star Trek Picard Season 3 is, it's hard to believe it happened. So thank you to Terry Metalis, and I hope, I pray, and I plead that he will do more Star Trek, as we all do. That being said, the other day I asked about, I also want to say it's been a while since I've done a video, so I'm going to be doing Star Trek TNG Episode 2 of Season 1, a little bit of a review of that. Probably going to be doing that next, and that will be up soon. I think the last one, it did pretty well amongst you guys. I don't think it didn't really see a lot of viewership from anybody but people who are subscribed to this channel already, I believe. So yeah, when I click on it and I just take a look at it, be this sort of the villain, and then it did really, we had a lot of comments on the video, so like a lot of people, and I want to thank especially on the comments, Frank Dees, because he dropped a $2 super chat. So Frank, thank you, man, so much. Seriously, man, I appreciate that. And everybody else who commented, everybody else who liked the video, and then No Money G, speaking of money, dropped a $10 super thanks on that video. And he said, No Money G said, when TNG first came on air, I was taken aback. I was used to TOS. I'm 51 now, and I really didn't like it because it was so different. As with most new shows, it takes a while to learn the characters, and even them learning each other and establishing the feel of the show. Obviously, I grew to love the show about halfway through season 1. Wow, you actually latched onto it pretty quick then, No Money G. Like Robert Meyer Brunette said, I grew up with Roddenberry Berman Trek as they aired. It was very different, and I grew to love them. My list is TNG, Enterprise, Voyager, and then DS9 for that era. I still love them all, though. The TNG movies were just all right for me. I didn't love them like the TOS movies. That is true. I mean, I think we totally agree as far as that goes. I mean, I'm 39, so I'm a little bit younger, but like I agree. When I was a kid, I used to wonder how, like when I was a kid watching The Next Generation, I grew up on the original series movies and Star Trek The Next Generation. But really the first thing that really made me love it was probably Star Trek The Next Generation, but at the same time, it was like mixed in at the same time for me. Like, so I experienced TNG with the original series movies at the same time. And once in a while, I would see the original series TV show. But even in the 80s, I felt the original series TV show was so dated looking that I didn't quite get into it that much. It seemed goofy to me at the time. And I also wondered, like, how can this be the same thing? Because I felt in the original series they were more gung-ho and, like, we're in space, but, it's adventure and crazy. Whereas The Next Generation felt more serious and proper and more about, like, there were these science anomalies that were happening and that were very, like, high level, it felt. I mean, serious, not necessarily the first season as much, but it felt more heavy and more it's weird. I've heard people call it boring. Like some people are like, yeah, I didn't watch the Star Trek. It seemed boring to me. And so a lot of people didn't watch the original series because it felt too campy and dated. Other people didn't like The Next Generation because they thought it was too boring. That's what people tell me when I'm bringing it up to people who are not necessarily sci-fi fans, or maybe they are, but they just don't like Star Trek that much. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. But for some reason, I just loved The Next Generation. And it wouldn't be until later that I would start liking the original series, because a lot of the concepts and the interesting stuff about the original series that was so good went over my head as a kid. As a kid, I just saw, it looks like Space Fighter show. I don't really get it, but The Next Generation, I was able to grasp a little bit better. But once it was like the mid-90s, around 1994 or so, when The Next Generation went off the air is when I started trying to watch the original series. But I always loved the original series movies right from the very get-go, and The Next Generation. And I remember people not liking The Next Generation. Like, people would tell me, like, my father told me, like, he was like, yeah, a lot of people don't like it or whatever because they want it to be the old cast, which I understand, which is funny because nowadays people always compare that to now. Like, you guys know what I'm talking about. There's always this comparison of, like, hey, sounds familiar, doesn't it? And then they show the clip of The Next Generation, the tabloids, where the tabloids are like, they hate them and it's not Star Trek and that sort of thing. And so people nowadays go, see, it's always been like this. But the difference is this. The difference is this, and this is very important, what I'm about to say. And I think if Robert Meyer Burnett were listening to this, and maybe he's even said the same thing, I don't know, but if Robert Meyer Burnett was hearing this, and if you clipped it for him and you sent this to him on Twitter or whatever, go ahead and do it. The difference is this. Star Trek The Next Generation was tough to grasp for the old school fans for a little while because there had never been anything but the original series, Bones, McCoy, Kirk, and Spock. So the first cast that was coming along to do it differently with a different cast, of course they were going to get that pushback. And of course it wasn't the same thing. And what happened is people, and the first season wasn't the greatest thing either, but it was more along the lines of the original series. So by the end of the first or second season, a lot of people started to finally get on board. And then by season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generation, season 3 and 4, the show got so damn good that people who didn't watch Star Trek before started tuning in. People who turned away from the show because it wasn't Bones, McCoy, and Spock and all that, they showed up and started realizing it was really good. And the show started getting better and growing, and the writing got better and better, and it just got better and better and better. And more people were watching it to the point where they were winning ratings and awards and just unbelievable stuff. Whereas with stuff like Discovery, the needle trends down. Now, I can understand the first couple of episodes of The Next Generation getting the most views ever because it's the new Star Trek, what's going to happen? But then it didn't just go, bam, drop down to 0. It dropped, and then it went flat, and then it started to rise up and rise up and rise up. That's not what Discovery does. Discovery started way up here like that, and then it went down, 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 down. That's what happened. If you compared the two, there would be a clear way, start way up here, go away, start to go down, and then crescendo back up again with The Next Generation. You don't see that with Discovery. It's just not the case. So the people that were like, look, this has happened before, like seen this before, like no you haven't, because that show was a show that had to follow the best act that had ever happened before, the original. And then it won people over eventually. Even Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise kind of had to do that. Star Trek Enterprise started, and all the Voyager, Deep Space Nine, TNG people tuned in to see what's this going to be like. And they saw it, and they felt it was on a smaller level. They felt it was a prequel. They felt it was a little too detached from the other Star Trek. It was prequel. The opening theme was bizarre, and a lot of things didn't rub people the right way, and people sort of tuned out, and then they began tuning out more and more, and by the third season, they had it started to get a little bit better at times, but it was just sort of too late, and by season 4, they really found their legs by season 4, although I disagree. I actually like all 4 seasons of Enterprise. I don't know, call me weird, but I actually like all 4 seasons of Enterprise. And I think that if Enterprise had gone on to seasons 4, 5, and 6, I think they would have started doing a little bit better. I think season 4 of Enterprise was kind of like season 3 and 4 of TNG, but they never got that opportunity to crescendo with seasons 5 and 6 and 7 because they had already sort of been canceled in season 3, but they allowed a season 4 to get the DVD stuff to work out and to get to that 100-episode mark and everything else like that. The other thing about things like Discovery, and I'm not trying to put down Discovery and new Star Trek only. If you guys like it, if people like it, that's great. I'm not trying to put it down to people that like it. But there's clear differences and they're facts, and you can bring them up. And so if someone says, like, you're just a hater or you know what you're talking about, well, listen, you can still love the show. But the fact is, it's not the same as these other situations. And one of them is that Discovery's getting season 5. Take that, Enterprise. I think Enterprise is a million years better than Discovery. So it's not even close. Millions more people saw Enterprise. Way more DVDs were sold. And the fact of the matter is they went out with a bang in season 4. And season 5 of Discovery will probably go out in a whimper. I think Strange New Worlds has probably helped Discovery a little bit. But it's not been good for Discovery. And they've reached, I think, 70-something episodes. So they haven't reached 100 episodes, right? So it's not the same thing. People are like, well, it's season 5. There's more seasons than even the original series. Yeah, but there aren't as many episodes. You do 10 episodes and call it a season. Star Trek used to do 22 episodes and call it a season. So you're not comparing apples to apples whatsoever. And so it doesn't make any sense. I go by episode, not by seasons, because you could have 5 episodes in a season. That's not even close. So you can't do that. But anyway, that's just the point of like sort of comparing how Star Trek is now to how it used to be. It's very flawed right now. It's very all over the place. Strange New Worlds seems to have the most for everybody, but I really did not like season 2 at all. I think season 2 of Strange New Worlds might have been, I don't know, more enraging than Discovery in some ways, because Discovery I just don't watch, and I don't care, and I pretend it's not even real. But Strange New Worlds I was very interested in watching because the first season I thought was a 6 out of 10, which is the best, besides Picard season 3, some of the best modern Star Trek I'd seen for the most part. So I thought it was all right. Let's see if they do better in season 2, and they didn't. They did worse, and bad worse by far. So anyway, we're repeating old adages and things and whatever. So let's go to your guys' comments. I asked you guys what you want to see on this channel going forward, and I just want to take a look. I actually saw some of the comments. There's actually only 4, but let's go to the and I know my channel is still small, and plus I've been away for a while, and there's no really active good Star Trek, so we're kind of in the dead zone a bit. For you hardcores, though, that are still here, thank you for being here, and I'll be here for you, hopefully, going forward. But I've just had a lot of bad stuff going on for me, and so yeah, it's not good. But life's been crazy. I'm back. What should I do? Talk about random Star Trek is 25%. TNG Season 1, Episode 2 review, 17%. But the number one thing was talk about Star Trek Legacy ideas. So I guess we're going to talk about Legacy first and where that's at, and talk about the updates. 25% of you said, I don't know. That was tied for second with talk about random Star Trek. So I think this episode is I think this is sort of a random talk. This kind of goes into that random talk category. So it's kind of what we want, I think. Is this what we want? Maybe. But also, I think I will do a video. My next video will be about Star Trek Legacy ideas. And I think I will get the TNG episode out there too. Because that was, although 4th place, I know there's a group of people out there that want it. So, and I like doing it, so I'll do it. So we'll kind of do everything, that was listed here. But at least I know that like people aren't like thirsty for like go live. Like it's it's more like, no, make a coordinated video that's entertaining or that's interesting, or a podcast with Star Trek that we can talk about and like. So I like the idea of that. Some people are there's news that I'm getting from multiple different people and sources that they are just. It could be that the studio is stalling because of the writer's strike, but right now it just does not seem good. Between the writer's strike and Paramount wanting to cut back on many things and not knowing where Star Trek is going here, that Legacy may not be something that happens, certainly in the near future, which is crazy to me. I think Terry Matalas, if Terry Matalas isn't writing the next Star Trek series, Terry Matalas should be writing the next Star Trek movie. Like, if they're really making this Star Trek 4, I would hope Terry Matalas would be in charge of that. I mean, that has not. It's kind of a separate thing, but how can J.J. Abrams not be looking at this, or someone not be looking at this? It's incredible. I would like to see him write the fourth movie if he's not going to write a TV series or a streaming series. So, but hopefully we'll have new news about that soon. I have my concerns a little bit with Star Trek Legacy, and the reason why I have those concerns is because I really liked Picard season 3. And while I think that a major reason I liked it was that the writing was better, because the idea of the cast coming back together, that went away for me, because season 1 and 2 of Picard were so terrible to me that the idea of the cast coming back together made me just think, well, this will, just be terrible, because it will be like the cast comes back together to be in a terrible show, and that could be worse than the movies were. So I don't know if I want to see that. But not only but the cast came together, and because the writing was good, then it all worked. Now, if Picard season 1 and 2 hadn't happened, then this would have been pretty good on its own just by the cast coming back together. And you could have said, well, Terry, it doesn't matter what you write. The cast is coming back together, so they could have done almost anything, and it would have been exciting because of the chemistry, and they're coming back together. Who cares? I agree with you, except the season 1 and 2 were so badly done that I was concerned about the cast coming back together. It doesn't matter what they were doing. And I was even concerned about what I was seeing when I was watching the show week to week. I was concerned, is Beverly out of character? I don't know. Is this person out of character? I don't know. And it turns out that they really weren't. That many years went by and people were a little bit different in different places, but they, for the most part, were the characters we remember. They just might not have been doing the exact things that we thought they would be, but pretty close and fairly believable for the most part. And so I went back to thinking, yes, I do love just the cast being together. So that was part of it. The cast being together was a huge mulligan, yes, for Terry Matalas. But the fact that they wrote an amazing show and a good show, and something that I think was not quite the TV show or as good as the TV show, nothing really could ever be that good, I think, but as good as any of the movies, is pretty amazing. And so for that reason, I'm concerned a bit when you take away the reunion of the cast in Star Trek Legacy, and 7 of 9 is the captain of the Enterprise, right? And now this Enterprise is small, right? The new Enterprise is small. It's the Titan renamed the Enterprise, which I don't really love. So if I were to be making Star Trek Legacy, I would actually want to do a time jump ahead, because I would want them to have maybe been out in space for a year and coming back into space dock for either a retrofit or a retread of the ship or a new ship altogether. That's just my opinion. I would actually sort of get rid of the Titan Enterprise, but the problem is, then you would be skipping to another Enterprise. We're on the Enterprise G. We don't want to go to the Enterprise H. And I don't even think we can go to the Enterprise H based on the continuity of Star Trek Enterprise. Because we see the Enterprise J, don't we, in Enterprise in the future? So we got to be careful, because we do see the Enterprise J. So I don't know, because that's so many more years down in the future that we can't already be on the Enterprise H, because the Enterprise J is 100 years late, still waiting to happen. So you're telling me there's going to be an Enterprise G that's going to last 100-something years, in between, when we've had so many other changes. So you got to be careful a little bit with that, in my opinion, if you care about canon, which I do somewhat. I do. I think that's big enough that you should care about that. So I guess we might be sort of stuck with the Enterprise G Titan but maybe there could be a retrofit or upgrade that would keep it the G but make it look different. Because I would like if they could do that fusion, bring that carpet where there's a carpet, but it's not the whole entire bridge. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there was a on the Enterprise J, I believe, there's a carpet, but there's a lot of steel and stuff too. It's like a mix of everything. So I would say start that and have a carpet go up the stairs, down to the back, and then around the corners, just to give the bridge a little bit more of a less open, dead look. And now it's like a blend of stuff. But I do think that they did a good job on Picard Season 3 on like the Titan, because in the conference room, for instance, it really does look like the Enterprise E, the next evolution of Star Trek The Next Generation time, right? It looks like the next evolution because things started becoming more gold, silver, and brassy looking, like stainless steel looking, if that makes any sense, with a dark maroon and ruby red, and like there were these darker, bolder, like toned down colors. And so they went even further with that in Picard Season 3, and that kind of makes sense, really, when you look at the progression of the bright colors of TNG to the more toned down colors of the movies to the even more darker toned down colors of Picard Season 3 with that sort of shine and whatever you want to call it. So it sort of makes sense in the progression, right? And it makes sense because in our actual real world, we're progressing in a visual style that makes sense, that goes along with actual time, and so creativity flows naturally alongside that as well. So that's why I think some people have problems that there's no carpet and there's darker and things look weird and whatever. Like, that's understandable because you are nostalgic about the 80s version of the show you saw and 90s and the movies as well. And now you've watched those a million times, but now in actual reality, we haven't seen TNG stuff for like 20 years. So now all of a sudden we're representing that in our time now. And even though it makes sense visually and flows with our natural development and evolution artistically and creatively, it doesn't look quite right. It's a shock because we've been trapped in watching Star Trek from 2005 and before, right? So naturally it's a shock to all of us in some ways. So you have to sort of fight that urge and open your mind a little bit. I do think they could have lit the show slightly brighter, a little bit brighter. I'm not going to back down from that. I do think Picard Season 3 was a little too dark. It was a little too dark. A little. My opinion. But it's not something that I was online like, what the fuck? It's like, I like it. The original movies were fairly dark at times. It was that dark submarine, and it was dark and little red lights were flashing on people's faces, and it was just, that vibe is what, like, I think a lot of people didn't get that like Terry Matalas was not only progressing Star Trek into nowadays while still trying to represent the retro look of TNG and the original series, but he also really harkened back to what does the original series look like in the movies now? Well, what does TNG look like in a movie now? And so that's what I think Terry Matalas did. And I think a lot of people got it. And I think even if you were shocked at first, you eventually kind of fell in line with it. And there are some people that still won't fall in line with it, but do like the season. And so that all is understandable. And that being said, that's where I'm going to stop this video because I have so much to do. And I don't know. If you want to support my channel, you've already done it by watching this whole video, but I hope you like this video. Comment down below. Please comment stuff if you can. And if you really like the video, you can super thanks. And if you want to send me anything directly, you can use my other channel's Streamlabs account, which I'll link down below, or you can paypal.me/Joe Cronin Show, which is my full other show's name. So paypal.me/Joe Cronin Show. Somebody asked about that last time, and I forgot to get back to them, so I'll just say it here. Super thankses are just fine down below, but for the people that mentioned wanting to try to help out or whatever, I feel bad about saying it, but whoever it was, I don't remember who it was who asked me, you can do it if you want privately, directly to my PayPal. It's paypal.me/Joe Cronin Show. JoeCronin Show. PayPal.me/Joe Cronin Show. Okay. And then super thanks down below as well if you want your it to pop up, and I'll read it and I'll post it up and all that sort of thing. So look for these follow-up videos that I'm going to be doing, and I'm sure we're going to hear some maybe Star Trek news in the next couple of months that can get us going. And in the meantime, we'll keep talking about this stuff, and I think that I am going to get back to that in a separate video. I'm going to talk a little more about Star Trek Legacy, and I'm going to talk about the Patrick Stewart stuff, which I thought was really funny. So look for that as well. This is Star Trek Late Night, and we'll see you in the next video.